Price and value are not the same thing. Let me make that abundantly clear. This is a phrase that I've chucked out over the years several times, but nothing quite epitomizes this sentence like this little laptop. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and let me tell you why buy cheap, buy twice is so prevalent at the moment. For some context, I'm a computer repair technician. I work in a shop, we specialise in computer repairs, and sometimes we buy in laptops to do up and sell on. This little number came in at a low price. Why a low price? Because on the surface it seems alright. Well, you've only got to scratch away a little bit at the surface and find underneath just a slew of issues. This is a Fusion 5 laptop. You'd be forgiven for not recognising the name because the company makes cheap, supermarket grade laptops and tablets that might not look a bad deal on paper but are just not great overall. This particular model came in and I was tasked with getting it ready for resale. This involves checking the internal connections, wiping the storage and installing a fresh version of Windows, installing basic software, and then of course giving it a Windows license. We tend to save giving it a license until right at the end, just because have you seen the price of Windows licenses, and also to make sure everything's fully working before committing it to a proper version of Windows. And I am very glad that we did that with this laptop. I went about installing Windows 10 Home. This went on fine, but as soon as I went to connect to the internet, I couldn't. Now this is immediately a red flag because anyone who's installed Windows 10 a couple of times will tell you that it really forces you to log into an account when actually setting up, initializing the operating system. So before you've even got to the home screen. So it not having that there and just knowing that there was no internet connection was a little bit weird. Anyone shouting, driver, driver, this isn't a bus. No, but what I mean by that is that usually if you're missing something like that, it's because there's no driver. And spoiler alert, there was no driver. However, the basic Windows wireless adapter driver usually works for most, properly well-known wireless cards. And this didn't have that. Next step is to check out the website to find the driver, which I did, and there were no publicly available drivers in sight. In fact, you had to sign up for an account, register your laptop, and then file a support ticket essentially to get the drivers to download. And we weren't going to go through all of that. At this point, I thought I'll open up the machine just to make sure that there's, maybe the Wi-Fi card slipped out or something as I was putting it back together. I mean, it's unlikely. So I opened it up and it soldered to the board. But not only that, the board itself was absolutely tiny. There is nothing to this machine. It's as basic as it gets. This is why these laptops look so cheap. You've got puny specs on an unupgradable board. Okay, I take that back. There is a SATA HDD or SSD connection. But even so, that's all you're getting. It's truly mega cheap. So I put it all back together and thought, let's try Ubuntu. Why not? So I loaded up the installation and boom, in the initialization process, it connected to the internet absolutely fine. Really cool. Love Ubuntu. Big fan of it. So Ubuntu goes on. I load it all up. My gosh, is this thing slow. So some of you might not know this, but Windows 10 is a pretty heavy operating system to run these days. It runs heaps of background applications and basically scours your entire system for data constantly. And Ubuntu, whilst not the lightest version of Linux, it's definitely not the lightest distro, it's fairly light. It's lighter than Windows, for example. And my gosh, was this thing slow. It's slow pretty much doing anything. It won't display a 1080 YouTube video at any kind of acceptable frame rate. Downloading is a pig. I mean, even transferring files can lag sometimes. This one's a bit of an L. You win some, you lose some. This was a loss. But we paid pretty much pennies for it, so it'll be a useful little Linux machine just to have laying around. But what it is proof that price does not equal value. What do I mean by that? Well, that you could go and spend, say, double the amount of money, and to some people, I don't want to spend double the amount of money on a laptop. This thing was £180 brand new, by the way. I think we paid maybe even less than 10%. But there we go, £180 brand new. For £350, not even double that, you could get a much, much better machine that would last you way longer. We often see Toshiba C660s, HP Pavilion 15s, various ThinkPads, I speak about those on this channel quite a bit, and they all way outlast something like this. The abundance of them on the market just proves just how long they last. I mean, they are older laptops, you know, 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th gen Intel Core i processors, and they're still going. You can put more RAM in them. You can swap the drive out for an SSD. Did I mention this thing had eMMC storage on this little Fusion laptop? Just no. You can swap the screens really easily. You can change the screen cables when they go wrong. You can change the keyboard, the base plastics, the palm rest, the bezels. There's so many of these parts online. You can swap them out, and you know, you take it to a computer shop or do it yourself. You know, I'm not going to tell you which one's better, but you can do all that stuff on these laptops and just keep them going. And when you do keep them going, you're rewarded because they're decent laptops. They perform well. As long as you're not gaming on them, then they're going to last you a very long time. And to loop back, those are double the price. But here's the thing. If you buy a cheap laptop, you're going to have to replace it way sooner. And if it breaks, I mean, you're likely not going to find parts for this thing. The Fusion 5 doesn't really have parts available. But on the surface, it looks really good. It looks, you know, it's silver. It looks like it could be metal. It's absolutely not metal, by the way. It's the creakiest plastic on the planet. And in photos, these laptops look pretty decent, but when you get them, you realize they're just not good enough. I want to hark back to the Samsung, I believe, Galaxy Chromebook Go review that I did not too long ago. That thing looked great in photos and actually didn't look too bad in person, but as soon as you picked it up, you realized you're holding something mega cheap, proper supermarket grade, and that is not what you want. I mean, this Fusion 5 has a slower processor and less memory than a lot of Android smartphones on the market right now. With 64 gigs of eMMC storage as well, I mean, it's probably got less storage than your smartphone. And it's just utter rubbish. Do not buy something this cheap. If you can't afford something better, then just use your smartphone. Honestly, it might even be a bad smartphone. It's going to be better than this. And save or find a way to get a slightly better laptop on the used market even. £150 can get you a decent used laptop on something like eBay. And definitely a much better laptop than something like the Fusion 5. So I just wanted to make this video as less of a review, because I'm not reviewing this thing, and more to just show you that value does not equal price in any way, shape or form. There might be a slight correlation in the smartphone market or in the laptop market, but spending such little money doesn't always give you the better deal. I feel like it's sort of romanticized these days that you've got to get the best deal. Or I managed to get this for 20% off. I managed to get this for £100, when really you're better off spending your money to get something it might even be the same model. For example, buying a used car. You buy something cheap, maybe it's not been as well maintained or looked after as something that's exactly the same spec but is a couple of grand more, and you might think, oh well, I've got an absolute bargain, until you realize that the person before has basically driven it through a river. And it's very similar with laptops. Anyway, I want to leave today's video here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for putting up with my rant. Leave me some horror stories in the comment section. I'd really love to hear all those. I mean, I don't love to hear them, of course. It's never great when you get swindled or anything like that, but it's nice to see the solidarity between the boys and really realize that this happens to everyone. So let me know in the comments. Please do check out all my social media, and I want to thank my patrons for supporting me. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're around here to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.